Hello, and thanks for joining me. I want to discuss a little the incident at a Starbucks branch in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This incident raises a lot of questions, not least the use of police power, which I believe is a critical issue facing the United States right now. Just a very quick disclaimer. Yes, I'm an outsider, um, but I think that when the world's biggest superpower, when a major Western democracy, these sort of issues are going on, it does reverberate, it does raise questions across across the democratic world. So, if you don't know, basically there was an incident at a branch of Starbucks in Philadelphia when two black men, and that is relevant to this story, two black men were arrested arrested on the grounds that they did not buy purchases and apparently they refused to leave. Um, so the Philadelphia PD turned up and arrested these guys, hands behind their backs. Um, I understand they were fingerprinted. They went through a long ordeal of going through all the paperwork, I guess. Um, there was no reports of brutality, but the arrest in itself is disturbing. The fact that these guys were escorted out of the building as if they were dangerous criminals. There are a lot of important questions to raise here. Firstly, the CEO of Starbucks, Kevin Johnson, has said he found the incident reprehensible and he will at some point issue a formal apology that may have already happened. But that's not good enough. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. So whether that comes down to the training of local managers, I don't know. But if Starbucks has an issue about loitering, then they should make that crystal clear. As I understand it, these two men were real estate developers. They were meeting an investor. The investor was using the restroom, and they were simply patiently waiting for him. They did not steal anything. They were not being aggressive. They were not being disruptive. There was absolutely nothing to indicate justification to treat them like criminals. And I think it's a complete disgrace all around. Now, I watched the video by the Philadelphia PD commissioner, Richard Ross, who is a black man. And that was interesting. I got the impression he was trying to come across as sensitive as possible. He said that new recruits are given training on race relations. In fact, they have to visit local museums related to that. He also said, as a black man, he was fully aware of the sensitivities around this. But he also defended his officers and said he felt they'd done nothing wrong. They were duty bound to respond to this call. Now, I don't want to make too many contrasts, but in the UK, a lot of police would come, they would judge the situation on its own merit. And I think in this country, most police would not make arrests in that situation. They would probably ask the people to leave, but that would be it. The fact that you have American citizens being arrested, hands behind their back, like they're dangerous criminals, that is very concerning. And it's angered a lot of people. The mayor of Philadelphia, I'm not sure who that is at the moment, he said he was, or she said, they were heartbroken. Um, it's it's very concerning. To their credit, other customers stood up for the guys, white customers, and pointed out they were doing nothing wrong. They weren't threatening anyone. No other customers were complaining. So it looks like this local branch has seriously overreacted. I hope someone loses a job over this because these men were degraded, they were humiliated, and they were treated like criminals for what? Waiting, waiting for a friend. It's ridiculous. I could somewhat understand maybe if we were talking about small family business. I've no sympathy for a big multinational. Um, and it sounds to me like this was a gross abuse of power. Um, Commissioner Ross can say that his officers were doing the right thing, but to treat them like criminals in these sort of circumstances, I don't think many people are going to buy that. That sounds like an abuse of power. Now there was no brutality involved, but the fact that citizens can be arrested for waiting in a public venue like that is it's utterly absurd. And I've seen people say that there is actually nothing in Starbucks sort of house rules that says you cannot loiter. If that is their policy, they should make it clear. But it's not like these guys were just, teenagers hanging around causing trouble. No disrespect to teenagers. They were simply waiting for a colleague. Um, Now, Commissioner Ross said his officers acted professionally and politely. I've seen a clip of the video. It doesn't give too much away. There was no major anger in that video, but certainly bewilderment that they were being arrested. Um, he did say that they weren't wearing body cams. The video was shot by another customer. Um, if they weren't wearing body cams, maybe they should. Maybe that should be mandatory. I think personally, a major problem in the United States is there is no independent watchdog because every single time this happens, it's internal. That is a very serious problem because it means that even if you have honest commissioners who have integrity and do try to make reforms, there will always be that question of corruption because it's like letting the wolf guard the chickens. If they make an internal investigation, of course they're going to defend their own people. I mean, it's just common sense to me. There should be an independent nationwide body set up, and I understand the issue of states' rights. Okay, there should be statewide bodies set up to independently monitor police behavior. I could be wrong about this, and I hope I'm wrong. But as it stands, I am not familiar of any such organization that is an independent watchdog. We're not perfect in the UK, but we have something called the Independent Police Complaints Commission. It's now, I believe, it's changed its name this year. But the purpose of that is if you think you've been treated unfairly by the police, you can make an official complaint. It's not ideal, and the police still get away with things they shouldn't get away with. But the situation at least is better. At least there's some accountability there. In America, like I say, it's all internalized. And I think there's a deeper problem here. And that is that, I have no doubt there will be people coming out and saying, oh, they were resisting arrest, you know, and they automatically see the uniform and they automatically defend it. Those people are placating the groundwork for a police state because that's what that is. If that isn't the behavior of a police state, I don't know what is. Like earlier this year, the incident in Louisiana school, I believe it was Louisiana, where a protester was thrown to the ground and handcuffed. For what? For asking questions. Time and time and time again, we see abuse of power. And I get it. I get it. Police officers deal with enormously stressful situations. They do put their lives online. They do face very challenging situations. I am not, on principle, anti police, but I do feel deeply uncomfortable and very angry about abuse of power. That is something that should be concerning to everybody. This is not a left wing, right wing issue. It should be concerning to everybody. And if you are a police officer and you agree with me, then either speak up or certainly don't downplay these things. Because I don't think all the police are the same. I don't believe every police officer does this. But I don't agree that these officers, okay, they were responding to a call, but they should, if anything, they should be charging Starbucks for wasting their time when they could be dealing, Philadelphia, like a lot of American cities, has a high homicide rate. Surely that would be a major priority over a situation like this. Now, as for the racial dynamic, there will be people who say that isn't the case, and sometimes it's not. But you really do have to ask the question: if, let's say, that it was an older white woman, would Starbucks have responded the same way? I think it's very plausible, and it is speculation, but I think it's very plausible speculation to say no. So I personally believe that local manager needs to be fired by Starbucks because it's disgraceful. And I think Philadelphia PD needs to seriously review their attitude to this as well. Yes, they were responding to an official complaint, but the officers should have judged that situation. Or at least if the guys were being a little bit stubborn, okay, just escort them out. But to actually go through the process of criminalizing them, to make them take fingerprints, arresting them. And I understood it took up to 12 hours. That's not the way you treat law-abiding citizens. So it's really it should make a lot of people uncomfortable. And this is not even compared to other cases. This is small fry. There's far worse examples out there. Where do you even begin? I do think America is a borderline police state. And I don't say that lightly. I have enormous respect for America. There's many, many good things about the United States. But frankly, I believe the police have far too much power. The power of arrest, the lack of accountability every time. The commissioner made an official statement. And yes, he was trying to be sensitive, but he did not get it. He did not understand that this should not have happened. These men should not have been arrested. If they were being a little bit stubborn, then okay, just ask them to leave, escort them out, but actually put them in handcuffs like common criminals. Ask them to leave. If they get aggressive, then arrest them. But to arrest them based on the words of the Starbucks manager alone, that seems to me to be a gross overreach on this case. In this case, let me know your thoughts. I'm not naive. Like I say, I know the police deal with some very stressful situations, but for goodness sake, there has to be some common sense in this, and there has to be a hell of a lot more accountability because official statements from the commissioner isn't good enough. I believe there needs to be an establishment of a genuinely independent commission or watchdog or body or something that scrutinizes these sort of cases. And I hope these guys sue Starbucks. I hope they sue the hell out of Starbucks and the Philadelphia PD. You know, on this occasion, I do think Starbucks was probably more at fault. I will say that, but it does. It's just the latest example of abuse of police power. And like I say, it isn't even